Hello, everyone. A heads up. Today's information load is quite substantial due to several significant developments. With only 5 days left until the fourth plenary session, on the surface, Xi Jinping continues to attend the Women's Summit and meet with a group of leaders from Asia, Africa, and Latin America, presenting a stark contrast to Donald Trump's commanding presence in the Middle East, where he seems to direct British and French leaders with ease. What's particularly unusual is that the party's flagship media, People's Daily, has once again prominently featured Hu Chunhui and Wang Yang in major headlines, which is highly thought-provoking. Chinese Premier Li Qiang attended the 80th anniversary celebration of North Korea's Workers' Party, and no one could have anticipated the shocking scene that unfolded. Kim Jong-un openly humiliated Li Qiang in a high-profile manner. This is, of course, not a simple matter. A brief comparison with Li Keqiang's visit to North Korea years ago reveals the difference. Moreover, a key figure who should have appeared at this event was conspicuously absent: Kim Jong-un's daughter, his presumed successor. Why? Regarding the U.S.-China trade war, the U.S. has openly identified China's Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of State Security as hardline factions intent on causing disruptions. Today, the U.S. dropped an unprecedented bombshell, taking down Cambodia's Prince Group in a single stroke. What exactly is the connection between this and the U.S.-China trade war? Today is October 15th, Eastern Time, and historic changes are unfolding before our eyes. Subscribe to stay with us as we witness, in real time, what could be a once-in-a-century transformation and understand why it's happening. We previously analyzed that when Hu Chunhui made a high-profile appearance in Tibet, both People's Daily and Xinhua coincidentally used the phrase spring blossoms and autumn harvests in their headlines, subtly endorsing Hu Chunhui by embedding his name, a tactic long mastered by party media. On October 13th, this tactic appeared again in People's Daily. The newspaper published an article titled, "Youthful Chapters, Great Rivers and Seas Surge Toward the Future Do Not Fail the People's Expectations." The article detailed an event co-hosted by the Cyberspace Administration of China, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Water Resources, People's Daily, the Communist Youth League Central Committee, and the Jiangsu Provincial Cyberspace Committee. The event, named the 2025 Writing Youthful Chapters on the Motherland Ideological Education Network campaign, was held at Hohai University, which is approaching its 110th anniversary. The focus of this article lies not in its content, but in its title. The phrase "youthful chapters" not only embeds Hu Chunhua's name again, but can also be interpreted as a homophone for inviting Chunhua to take the helm, implying a call for Hu Chunhui to assume leadership. Some might think this is merely a coincidence or overinterpretation. Let's continue. The latter part of the title, "Great Rivers and Seas Surge Toward the Future," ostensibly refers to Hohai University. However, recall that when the internet buzzed with the phrase, "the sea overturns the small pond," it was used to hint at Wang Yang replacing Xi Jinping. Doesn't rivers and seas conveniently allude to Wang Yang's name? This could, of course, be another coincidence. But consider this. The event's organizers are of an exceptionally high level: Cyberspace Administration, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Water Resources, People's Daily, and the Communist Youth League Central Committee. With so many top-tier universities in China, why was Hohai University, a school specializing in water resources, chosen for such a high-profile event? Hohai University falls under the water resources system, and Hu Jintao, as we know, emerged from this very system. Hu Jintao studied hydraulic engineering at Tsinghua University, specializing in river and dam power stations, and began his career at the Lujiaxia Engineering Bureau's construction team under the Ministry of Water Resources. From 1969 to 1974, he served as a technician, secretary, and deputy party branch secretary in the ministry's 4th Engineering Bureau, marking the start of his career. The water resources system has always been Hu Jintao's stronghold. So, here's another coincidence. This event ties together Hu Chunhui, Wang Yang, and Hu Jintao, seeing the Ministry of Water Resources and the Communist Youth League among the organizers. It's clear who's steering this event. With 3 coincidences piling up, one can't help but wonder, are these all truly coincidences? Let me tell you, the coincidences don't end here. The title not only embeds Hu Junhe and Wang Yang's names and hints at Hu Jintao's background, but also states, great rivers and seas surge toward the future, do not fail the people's expectations. This clearly suggests that the vast seas, Wang Yang, are heading toward a bright future, urged not to disappoint the nation. The phrase great indeed, Dazai, rooted in ancient Chinese, conveys strong admiration, meaning truly grand or truly great. This phrase is most famously known from the Yizhuan, commentary on the Book of Changes, specifically the Tuan commentary on the Qian hexagram. Great indeed is Qian, the origin. All things begin from it, and it governs heaven. This signifies Qian as the start of all things, the ruler of heaven, symbolizing a sovereign. In 1271, Kublai Khan, at the peak of Mongol dominance, adopted Great Yuan as the dynasty's name upon the advice of his Chinese advisor Liu Bingzhou, marking the establishment of the Yuan dynasty. Since then, great indeed is Qian has become synonymous with dynastic change and renewal. Isn't this strikingly consistent with signs and leaks over the past year suggesting that Hu Junhe and Wang Yang might replace Xi Jinping in a power transition? Moreover, the Mongol conquest of the Song dynasty, establishing the Yuan, is historically viewed as Hu barbarians ruling China. Doesn't Hu Junhe's surname, Hu, fit perfectly? Do you see? This makes 5 coincidences. We've said before, once or twice may be coincidence, but 3 or 4 times. That's likely not coincidence, but deliberate orchestration. And the coincidences continue. On October 13th, after People's Daily published this youthful chapter's Rivers and Seas article, the next day, October 14th, People's Net published another piece titled Advancing China the Cattle Bowl, reporting on cattle breeding innovations in Inner Mongolia. As is well known, Inner Mongolia is where Hu Junhe rose to prominence and remains a stronghold. The article suggests that Inner Mongolia's cattle have found their bull, a talent spotter, implying that Inner Mongolia's bull is exceptional. We all know who Hu Junhe's bull is, so People's Daily spending 2 consecutive days highlighting Hu Junhe and Hu Jintao. Another coincidence? Whether you agree or not, we warmly welcome your comments and perspectives. Turning to the anti-Xi faction of Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, and Wang Yang, let's briefly address the Xi faction. The most striking news about Xi's camp recently is the public humiliation of Premier Li Qiang by Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Li Qiang's visit to North Korea involved 2 diplomatic activities, representing the Communist Party at the 80th anniversary celebration and military parade of the Workers' Party, and conducting an official state visit as premier. From the moment Li Qiang arrived, observers noted his timid demeanor in Kim's presence, lacking the gravitas of a major power's premier. This stems largely from Li Qiang's background as Xi Jinping's secretary, consistently acting on Xi's orders even as premier, instinctively adopting a subordinate posture. This mindset was evident in his body language. However, Li Qiang's lack of confidence is one thing. Kim Jong-un's blatant disregard for him is another. During talks with North Korea, Li Qiang's interactions were starkly contrasted with those of Vietnam's General Secretary To Lam. Kim's meeting with To Lam was visibly egalitarian, showing basic respect. In contrast, his meeting with Li Qiang resembled a superior addressing a subordinate, merely granting an audience. Some might argue that To Lam, as General Secretary, is Kim's peer, while Li Qiang, as Premier, is a second-tier official, warranting different diplomatic protocol. Theoretically, this holds. However, China-North Korea relations differ fundamentally from China-Vietnam ties. Historically, and since the founding of the People's Republic, North Korea has viewed China as a suzerain state. Especially after the Korean War, high-level Chinese visits to North Korea have always carried the connotation of an emissary from the superior state visiting the vassal court. Compare this to Li Keqiang's 2011 visit to North Korea. Though only a vice premier at the time, Kim Jong-il and his son welcomed him together, adhering strictly to protocol and reserving the central position for Li Keqiang, flanking him to show respect for the emissary from the superior state. Now look at Liu Yunshan's attendance at the Workers' Party 70th anniversary parade a decade ago and his meeting with Kim Jong-un. Despite being only the fifth-ranking Politburo Standing Committee member, 3 ranks below Li Qiang's current position, Kim treated Liu with utmost respect, a stark contrast to Li Qiang's treatment. Now consider the footage of Li Qiang bidding farewell to Kim Jong-un, which has gone viral online. Kim, hands in pockets, casually spoke to subordinates while perfunctorily acknowledging the respectfully standing Li Qiang, barely glancing at him. Even as Li Qiang, already in his car, frantically waved goodbye, Kim offered only a cursory wave before turning away, showing complete disregard. If official talks adhered to diplomatic protocol, this farewell was an overt, high-profile humiliation. Clearly, Kim was displeased that Xi Jinping didn't attend personally. However, there's no precedent in PRC history for the party leader attending a Workers' Party anniversary, as China has never accorded North Korea such high status. Even so, Li Qiang, as the party's number 2, attending on Xi's behalf was an unprecedentedly high-level gesture. Kim should have been satisfied, yet his behavior was unapologetically contemptuous. Why? As the Chinese saying goes, when beating a dog, look at its master. Everyone knows Li Qiang is Xi Jinping's closest aide and confidant, representing Xi on this visit. Even if Kim was dissatisfied, basic respect and courtesy toward Li Qiang were warranted, as snubbing him effectively slapped Xi in the face. So, where does Kim Jong-un get the audacity to openly humiliate Xi Jinping? Unless, of course, he's aware of Xi's true power status and feels no need to fear offending Xi or his subordinate. Thus, Kim's brazen insult reflects both a subtle signal about Xi's power status and a major failure in Xi's North Korea diplomacy. Spending billions annually has fostered not loyalty, but ingratitude, proving Xi's lack of exceptional ability beyond lavish spending. No wonder insiders call him Blockhead, and his family nicknames him Second Fool. Speaking of Xi's foolishness, we must address the escalating U.S.-China trade war. Today, U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent and Trade Representative Greer held a press conference in Washington on the trade war. Greer issued a stern warning, stating that China's stranglehold on rare earth supply chains negates the U.S.-China agreement reached in Geneva 6 months ago. If China persists with this escalated new mechanism, the U.S. is prepared to take tough measures. Bessent was even more striking, warning that some in the Chinese government seek to slow global economic growth through economic coercion, framing this not as a U.S.-China issue, but as China versus the world, with China's economy facing the gravest consequences. He unprecedentedly named Chinese trade negotiator Li Qiang, calling him a deranged low-level official who uninvitedly came to Washington, threatening that if port freight issues aren't resolved, China's retaliation would cause global chaos, undermining 4 rounds of prior U.S.-China talks. Bessent, of course, doesn't genuinely believe Li Qiang had the gall to sabotage negotiations on his own. Everyone knows Li was merely a messenger, with Xi's loyalist He Lifeng leading the talks. Bessent's remarks are a diplomatic tactic, pinning the blame on a junior official like Li Qiang to leave room for negotiation with He Lifeng and the real decision-makers in Beijing. Over the past 2 days, Bessent has repeatedly signaled that China's leadership is split into moderate and hardline factions, with the hardliners, explicitly the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of State Security, launching the rare earth assault to challenge the world and derail U.S.-China talks. As we noted yesterday, Commerce Minister Wang Wentao and State Security Minister Chen Yixin are core members of Xi's faction, confirming U.S. awareness that Xi's camp is sabotaging negotiations. This brings us to today's blockbuster news: the U.S. Justice Department's move to sue Chen Ji, founder of Cambodia's Prince Group, for telecom fraud, seizing approximately $15 billion in assets. This is the largest financial fraud case in U.S. history, with Chen Ji, originally Chinese but holding British and Cambodian citizenship, as the prime suspect. Prosecutors say he founded Prince Group in 2015, expanding globally under the guise of legitimate real estate, financial, and consumer businesses, reaching over 30 countries. In reality, Qiang orchestrated and exploited fraud hubs across Cambodia for pig butchering scams, luring victims into cryptocurrency investments before draining their accounts. The U.S. Justice Department has filed a civil lawsuit to permanently seize 127,271 bitcoins, worth about $15 billion. In our previous coverage of telecom fraud hubs in Myanmar and Cambodia, we expose how these operations are controlled by China's Ministry of State Security, established under Xi's Belt and Road Initiative as state-backed criminal enterprises. These hubs engage in telecom fraud, as well as gambling, drugs, and even organ trafficking. Figures like Qiang are undoubtedly Ministry of State Security operatives. Impossible to sustain such a vast and prolonged fraud network without support from China's state security and public security systems. Do you see? Another coincidence. Just as the Trump administration publicly accuses China's Ministry of State Security of sabotaging trade talks, the U.S. Justice Department swiftly sues a fraud group led by the ministry. The objective reality is that the Trump administration is now relentlessly targeting China's hardline faction, effectively intervening in China's internal power dynamics. The show has just begun. Subscribe to witness it firsthand.